Hi, this is Bruce Rawles. I'm talking again with Susan Dugan, and as usual, we're talking about A Course in Miracles. Today, Susan picked a couple of really excellent workbook lessons from the course, lessons 240 and 244, and we thought we'd also read a little bit of the surrounding what is commentary. Anyway, great choices, Susan. Very timely considering the pandemic coronavirus situation.
Right,
We're recording this on March 27th, so it's been a couple of weeks or so into at least a relatively significant global awareness of what's happening in that arena. And we were just talking before we started the recording about how, in the course's perspective, from A Course in Miracles vantage point, the only real virus we need to concern ourselves with is the ego, which takes any opportunity to spread, and yet it has no life of its own, just like a virus really has no real identity other than it basically invades cells and propagates by that invasion and co-ops what we call biological life, but in a sense, the ego kind of does that, with what we think of as life in the world. But the course reminds us that that there isn't a world, and
right.
so anyway, so we were just kind of discussing that and laughing about it a little bit. So, any opening remarks or comments kind of along the lines of what we were sharing?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've just been, and we were talking about before we came on the air here. This is a this is very challenging, even for long-term course students. We all know intellectually the course's metaphysics, that there is no world, and that everything outside is an outside picture of an inward condition. But and we know that the world, that from studying this path, that the world was invented by our decision-making mind, as a to try to prove that we really do exist separate from God, and it's not our fault, and to keep us mindlessly rooted in a dream of individuality, which is, in which we've forgotten where we came from, that we have a mind,
Mhm.
and we're sort of hiding from God. We now feel like we're fugitives from love, from God, because of what we took seriously, that this imaginary idea that we had somehow run away from home and separated from God. So that's the metaphysical context of all of this. But as we know, it's trying to still navigate. We're still all trying to somehow survive, and I mean, we haven't awakened and ascended, so here we are still trying to practice forgiveness, and trying to, which is really the course's core teaching, and to really look at how reactive we become to situations and people in the world, and how frightened or anxious, upset, terrified we can become. And this is true of our personal relationships too, our special relationships. And often, in a situation like this, those differences also become more highlighted, because everybody's coming from their own hysteria.
Right,
and
right.
so and so that tends to be the way it presents. And so what we were talking about, you and I, was just how this is really hard for us to accept, that
Hmm.
we're going to look at lesson 240 first, and that is, fear is not justified in any form. And that can be a very comforting lesson. In fact, I was teaching my Tuesday night class, which we're now doing by Skype, and Bruce was in the class. Most of the people haven't figured out how to use Skype, so it was mainly Bruce and me and one other person. But we were looking at something in the text. But to close the class, I just sort of, I wanted to kind of ground us a little bit, and do some sort of closing meditation, and just randomly opened the book to Fear is Not Justified in Any Form, which actually I opened it to lesson 244, I Am in Danger Nowhere in the World, which is also, we're also going to look at today.
Both
So
very relevant
yeah,
quotes.
and I mean, I think we were already sort of, that at the time that felt pretty comforting. It was at the end of the class, and we've been looking at a particularly difficult section in the text. So, it seemed we could go within and sort of at least hear the truth beyond the words, for a moment, maybe step up above the battleground with Jesus into the and experience that really is comforting, that we're not in danger, and that it's really, there's truth to it that's beyond our understanding. And there's real safety that's beyond what seems to be happening here. Because from the ego's perspective, what seems to be happening here is anything but safe. It seems like the threat level has just gone, which is always seems to exist, has just gone to like 99%,
Right.
and with no understanding of when it might abate, or if. Really.
Yeah, as you're sharing
Yeah.
that, I'm thinking the ego's metaphoric sort of Damocles, there's dangles above our heads, and was it a Greek myth, one of those anyway, is always there. It's just that we as egos hide it from ourselves from time to time, and do it in a way so that the fear seems to subside and abate.
Right.
But the ego's whole game is managed fear of one
Right.
form or another, and so I think the challenge, of course, is like you're sharing is when you go out into public settings to remember that it's like everyone else is fighting the same battle between the two thought systems, and to whether it's a grocery clerk or someone on the freeway, kindness is always warranted and justified. And,
Right, right. And
yeah.
that focus, I think, of of approaching it the way Ken used to tell us to do, as trying to make it about them,
Mm-hmm.
really realizing that, or to the extent possible, at least reminding ourselves that everybody really is fighting the same hard battle. So
Right.
whatever, I mean, I've also seen some very, very kind behavior going on, which
Mm-hmm.
is quite lovely.
Mm-hmm.
And but when people are acting out, or when I'm acting out, I mean, I know I was telling Bruce that I've gotten very, I think I'm completely diagnosable now as OCD. I mean, I'm crazy about sanitizing, and it's I tell myself it's because my husband is still going to work and potentially bringing home whatever. His business is considered an essential service, so he doesn't really have a whole lot of choice about that. But
You haven't recreated the Andromeda Strain series of I don't know if you remember that movie where they went through all
yeah,
these
sort of, yeah.
corridors with lights, and they
Right,
vaporized the outer layer of skin,
right,
and,
yeah. Well,
and then they had the hazmat suit
it's
kind of thing.
maddening. You can't,
Not quite that stage yet, huh?
yeah, but you do feel like you're just, at times I can become totally obsessed
Right.
with, what haven't I sanitized? And also, I don't know, he's been working long hours, and I don't know what he's touched. I don't, we share a kitchen. We're trying to kind of I'm trying to kind of social distance, because we just don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm also trying to, keep us both healthy,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's a lot. So but that he doesn't really, he's under a lot of pressure just having to go in, and has his own
Sure.
issues.
Sure.
And so but his sort of ideas of sanitation and mine are like worlds apart. He really doesn't seem to get much of that. So I do feel that it's completely like on me. And so so that creates distance, and that creates friction. And so you have to really, I'm constantly trying to remind myself that this is hard. This is really hard for us. We don't know, even as course students, we don't know that we're safe. We don't know that fear is not justified in any form. We have moments where we've experienced that other world, that outside the world of time and space awareness that Jesus has and Holy Spirit is sharing with us. But it's not our it's certainly not our dominant reality at all.
Right.
So concentrating, I think one tool that is helpful is to kind of concentrate on reminding myself that everybody here is fighting that hard battle, and I do that a lot of times throughout the day. And I also try to, I mean, and that may prompt you then to get back to your right mind and, and try and be more compassionate and, reach out to people that maybe, finding out where other people are at. So just kind of taking the focus off your own, your own predicament,
Yeah.
and in any way possible can really help bring you back to sanity, I think.
It does. It does. Yeah, I was thinking just as you're sharing that, even just, a neighbor said, "Hey, could you, get a few groceries for us?" And so, sure,
Yeah,
sure, why not?
exactly.
So we just,
Yeah.
grabbed a few things in the 2 stores we went to, and it's like, why not? I mean,
Right,
and
you're
it
going
is,
anyway, right?
it can
Yeah,
be, yeah, but really simple things like that. But it's really, that the idea in the mind that we really, really are all in this together,
mhm,
and
exactly. Yeah,
ultimately, minds are joined, as the course says, and nothing else is.
right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so, well, maybe we should read that
I think
lesson.
so. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about if I read the first paragraph and you read after the second?
Sure.
So it's lesson 240, which is the second part of the workbook, which is it's more of a revelatory part of the workbook. The first part of the workbook is really about the undoing of, the practical undoing of the ego. And the second part is really more us kind of, you know, just stepping back and being willing to open to the truth. And so this is one of those lessons. Fear is not justified in any form. Fear is deception. It attests that you have seen yourself as you could never be, and therefore look upon a world which is impossible. Right? Not one thing in this world is true. Boy, that's hard to to grasp, isn't it? It does not matter what the form in which it may appear. It witnesses but to your own illusions of yourself. Let us not be deceived today. We are the sons of God. There is no fear in us, for we are each a part of love itself.
It's stark contrast between the two thought systems is pretty obvious, isn't it?
Right, right,
Yeah. It really boils down to fear and love,
right,
and we all vacillate between those two all the time.
right. And, not one thing in this world is true. It doesn't matter what the form in which it may appear, whether it's a virus that seems out of control and out of our control to address,
Mhm.
or it's somebody cutting us off in traffic, which is a lot less than it used to be at this point with everybody under stay-at-home orders.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
it doesn't really matter whether it's something in my own body or it's something in a relationship, or it's minor annoyance, or it's an email I just got that upsets me, or it's the news, or it doesn't matter. It's not, none of it is. It's all equally untrue, and the truth is that there's never really anything to fear, because none of this is real. I mean, we're not there yet, but Jesus is assuring us that there's a safety beyond this. So we could join with, even if it's only for a moment. I actually tried that with this lesson the other night, just a couple nights ago, when I was really pretty wound up, and just read the lesson and kind of sat with it. And I was really surprised that it did bring me peace. They don't always, but it really did. I mean, I kind of felt, at least for a few minutes, um, okay, safe. It's going to be okay. Yeah. So
The center of the storm is always there,
yeah,
waiting for our acceptance and our welcome. Huh?
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And Jesus never judges us because we're in fear, and that's good to remind yourself of too. And it's okay to say, boy, it seems like I need help here. That's not really the level that he ever really helps us at, but it's okay to say that's where it seems like I need it.
Yeah, I keep coming back to that cognitive dissonance phrase. I know that's a fancy couple of words, but the idea that there's two completely opposite ideas, and if we bring them together and see the insanity of the belief in separation and the sanity of the idea that
Right,
we're all in it together, and put them together, it's sort of like the sanity is the light that vaporizes the darkness of the idea that somehow separate interests are going to work for us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't. It's like the if you bring darkness to light, the darkness can't hold. If you bring illusion to truth, the illusions can't really hold. They kind of
Mhm.
dissolve in the light of truth. So
Yeah, like
so we have to be
like
willing
your
to.
meditation you were just
Yeah.
describing. Yeah,
Yeah.
see, if we just really like sit with what's being said
Hmm.
and really let the meaning behind the words wash through us, it's like, you know, it really is profoundly comforting to know that, you know, we're
Right.
completely safe in truth, despite what, you know, may be apparent in form,
Right.
uh, and that, you know, we got to believe ultimately that, you know, we're more than just bodies, and you know, that spirit is really what we all share,
Right.
and there's where the real comfort is, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. I'll read the next paragraph.
Okay.
How foolish are our fears? Would you allow your son to suffer? Give us faith today to recognize your son and set him free. Let us forgive him in your name, that we may understand his holiness and feel the love for him, which is our own as well. And
Right.
another example of that cognitive dissonance is recognizing, and as is so much of the course, is, you know, the not know aspect of it, of looking at the denial of the peace, the denial of the truth, and then, you know, learning to forgive ourselves for that resistance.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, there's a part of our mind that really is peaceful. We just have turned our backs on it most of the
Hmm.
time. And if there's ever a time to really try to open to it a little bit,
Yeah,
entertain the possibility that it's still there, this is certainly as good as any. It's going to
exactly.
get, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Just noticing how quick we are to take up whatever fight that, you know, robs us of our peace, and just say, wait a minute,
Hmm.
that's never worked. Why
Right.
would I want to go there again?
And that need to control all of these uncertainties that we really, despite whatever our efforts are, and the course is not at all, I mean, against, do what the kind thing and the
Right,
normal thing,
right.
and do try to sanitize and do wash your hands and, do social distance. That's all very,
Mhm.
as long as we believe we're bodies, that's the kind way to treat the body.
Yeah,
But that when we have that frenetic, quality to it, where we're, getting, we're so reactive because part of us feels like we're out of control, then that's really a clue that, we've taken this way beyond, what, our ego's very involved, and we've forgotten that we have that quiet center that
yeah.
we can return to, right?
Hmm.
So, but do you want to go on to the read some of what is the world too, which is
Sure, sure.
what
Why
this
not? Yeah, let's do that.
which is one of those sections that is the what is the
The
big
what
the
is, yeah, the 14
uh,
of those. Uh-huh.
right, that kind of are interspersed throughout the second part of the workbook, and then each of the smaller prayer lessons are kind of directed in some way at that theme. So
Exactly. You want to start with the first paragraph of that?
sure. The world is false perception. It is born of error, and it has not left its source. It's still in the mind. It's born of the error of the, believing that the tiny mad idea of separation had went anywhere, but it didn't. Ideas leave not their source. It's still just an idea in the mind that had no consequences, right? It will remain no longer, the world will remain no longer than the thought that gave it birth is cherished. So as long as I want to believe that there's a world, and cherish that, however, despite the fact that the world is a defense against the truth and a very tumultuous place, then, so long will I be fighting the battles here and forgetting what I really am, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the current batch of workbook lessons, for those who are doing them chronologically at the beginning of each year, are all focused on grievances. And I was thinking, you know, it's like, you know, the thought that gave it birth is cherished. Well, we keep insanity alive by, you know, pouring kerosene on the fire of our grievances, so to speak. And just
Right.
whenever we see something that it tempts us to get upset, just say, okay, what am I really going to gain out of being upset by X, Y, or Z that seems to be happening? And it doesn't mean we don't do things in response to that. It just means that if we see that uh, we're essentially betting on the wrong horse and robbing ourselves of our peace by projecting it out onto some external circumstance of whatever sort, and it really is just a choice of which teacher, once again, isn't it?
Right. Yep. When the thought of separation has been changed to one of true forgiveness, will the world be seen in quite another light, and one which leads to truth, where all the world must disappear and all its errors vanish? So, we have a teacher within us, Jesus, Holy Spirit. We're in school, right? Giving the world a different purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're willing, even in the, ultimately the world will disappear, but even in the moment when we're so afraid or anxious or worried or, angry or whatever is happening, our reactions, we have that, we can really experience true forgiveness. We can bring that, we can question the cause of why this, of our emotion, and realize that we could see peace instead of this, turn toward the peace in our mind and ask to look and see differently.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so now its source has gone, the world's source has gone, and its effects are gone as well. And that doesn't mean really that there there isn't still a pandemic, or there isn't still someone reacting in your life that in a relationship, but it means that my reactivity, I can go through it peacefully a lot,
Exactly.
and kind of without the with some certainty and sense of true support and safety and kindness, right?
Yeah.
Toward myself and others. Yeah.
Yeah. That kindness is such an important thing to remember, because it's moment to moment. In any given circumstance, we can either experience peace or a grievance, and
Exactly.
the choice is always back to numero uno here.
Yeah.
It's my decision. And then
Yep.
and the manifestation of what's going on in the world, the script may play out, to a partial observer. The things that seem to be happening in the world may be just exactly the same, but what's going on in the mind of each person, witnessing, can be very different. And
Right. Each part of the decision-making mind, which is really what is represented, is all these personal selves really are. We're all part of the same mind.
right.
Can have a different experience if it so chooses, right?
Exactly.
And that is a healing choice that's demonstrating the power of the mind to heal, to all minds, because we are joined. We're really just part of one mind. So even though it doesn't maybe have effects that are discernible in other people, on some level within the hologram, it has an effect. It does heal the mind. So we take that on faith.
Well, I think we notice that if after practicing this for enough years, that there is a gradual transition
Yeah.
from anxiety and a greater just upset, if you will, generally, to
Yep.
one of greater peace, and we're able to recover from the upsets a little bit more quickly each time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Shall I read the next paragraph?
Yeah, sure.
The world was made as an attack on God. It symbolizes fear. And what is fear except love's absence? Thus the world was meant to be a place where God could enter not, and where his Son could be apart from him. Here was perception born, for knowledge could not cause such insane thoughts. But eyes deceive, and ears hear falsely. Now mistakes become quite possible, for certainty has gone. And that certainly could be a description of a lot of what seems to be going on in the world, couldn't it? I mean, the
Yeah.
idea that we're, the ego's misinterpretation of things, of we're not in it together. Everybody is in it for themselves, and under ego's default script,
Right.
that's what things seem to be. And yet, there's, again, that opportunity for kindness, shared interest, forgiving ourselves for what we've, fed into the fear. And
Yep.
just last night, we watched the end of the first season of an interesting series on Amazon Prime, I think it was, called The Kindness Diaries. And it's about this guy who basically decides that his life as a Wall Street stockbroker or whatever just wasn't working for him. And he decided he was going to take a sabbatical and go around the world and rely on the kindness of strangers. And
Cool.
it's been pretty interesting to watch. There's another season that we haven't seen yet, but the first 13 episodes were quite good. And he basically points out, it's like there's, again, these two thought systems. There's the selfishness, and he was in Cambodia and saw some of the atrocities there, and in Germany and at the concentration camps, and similar kinds of things. But at the same time, he also, pretty much everywhere he went, would find people who were willing to, just for no particular reason, put up a stranger for the evening and get him food
Wow.
or a tank of gas for his little sidecar motorcycle. And as he traveled around the world, literally all
Oh,
circumnavigated the globe.
interesting. Yeah.
And it was a fun opportunity to look at how we really all have these two thought systems, and in a given moment we're operating either from sanity and kindness, or insanity and no, I
Yep.
don't want to help. And obviously the real help that the course is talking about is not having to be a philanthropist for the world on a material sense, but seeing everyone as truly spirit and able to transcend the insanity of the limitations of the form that we think we're stuck in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. But here was perception born, for knowledge could not cause such insane thoughts. So, yeah, I mean, in truth, and we're always grasping at knowledge here as if it's, knowledge in the world within the insane thought system.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
that knowledge just, is very subjective.
Right. The knowledge
It's,
of the world is really
yeah,
just really mostly perception. I mean,
right,
because
exactly.
what's quote unquote true to science, and in one year could be overturned the next a lot of times.
Or just, even in this case, there's not complete agreement on certain things.
Oh yeah,
But with the
exactly.
epidemic, you hear a lot of conflicting information, even without going into wildly fake news
Yeah,
sites.
right, exactly. Yeah,
So yeah,
even considering the fact that we're all seeing through a glass darkly, we have
right,
such a tiny window on the universe that at best we have, a very very astonishingly incomplete picture of things. Yeah.
exactly. I'm trying to think if there's a way to conclude this without reading the whole thing, because I would like to get to the,
Should we skip to the other one, the 244?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, or maybe just the last paragraph of this, because
Okay.
it does get back to forgiveness. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
just paragraph 5, let us not rest content until the world has joined our change perception, which really means, until I'm applying this to all of my perceptions, when I'm seeing that all of this I have a different choice about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the world doesn't really change, but my, which teacher I'm going through, I'm experiencing the world changes, and that changes my experience of the world from peace to conflict. If I've chosen the ego, it will always be conflict of some kind. And if I've chosen Jesus, it will always be the same response that, we're safe, we're loved, everybody's included, not one is left out of the healing, and everyone to love will return,
Mm-hmm.
So let us not be satisfied until forgiveness has been made complete, and let us not attempt to change our function. We must save the world. So we must save the mind from the world it made. And my mind is the one that I work with. Nobody else's, right? For we
Tag, we're all it, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's all the same, part of the same mind, but really the only thing, this isn't about me trying to change other people's minds, as tempting as that may be to the ego, and it is very tempting to the ego, but it is about, okay, I can go through this a different way. I can learn, I can make this a classroom in which I learned to let go of more guilt and more barriers to my experience of the love that we all share, and the safety that we all share, the kindness that we all share, and the sure end in back in God's arms that we all share. You know,
Yep.
it leads to my perception of sameness, seeing that everybody's again fighting that hard battle and just trying to find their way home. And so, that's a call for love. It's my call for love, and I answer it. Right. So, and let us not attempt to change our function. Our function is always forgiveness in the world. We must save the world, for we who made it must behold it through the eyes of Christ, that what was made to die can be restored to everlasting life. So if we,
And that at this level that we think we're at is nothing, probably more or less just the everyday recognition that whatever we have previously condemned, we transform to what the Course would call holiness by recognizing that those condemnations are unwarranted.
right.
And not that there aren't crazy things going on in the world, but to demonize what's happening or people that seem to be doing things that are insane is really to forget the lesson that it's my projection that I need to heal, and
Right.
not what's happening out in the world. And
as Ken used to say, sane people don't come here.
mm-hmm.
So that includes me. I mean, we're all if we've chosen the ego, there's no hierarchy of insanity.
Right.
We're all insane. There isn't this real. Some people seem to have quieter egos than the others. But if we've chosen the ego, we're still reactive, whether it's internally, whether we're trying to curb it with behavioral measures.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that. But we're all screaming, terrified babies when we've chosen the ego. Even if it's just inside, right?
Right. No, most people don't want to think of themselves in that way, but as egos, that's our mind on ego. Like this is your mind on drugs, and those old ads. This is your mind on ego. It's a screaming,
exactly.
insane infant, basically. Yeah.
Yep. Should we read lesson 244?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with the first paragraph here.
Okay.
I'm in danger nowhere in the world. Your son is safe wherever he may be. For you, capital Y, meaning Holy Spirit, are there with him. He but need call upon your name, and he will recollect his safety and your love, for they are one. How can he fear or doubt or fail to know he cannot suffer, be endangered, or experience unhappiness when he belongs to you, beloved and loving, in the safety of your fatherly embrace?
Mm. Well, that must be our perception, the perception of a part of our mind that is not dominant in us most of the time, right? Because that's not our experience. But again, it is the experience of the holy instant.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The quality of this kind of reminds me of the forgotten song. It's like there's that calling, that longing that we know that there's a peace that transcends anything that this world has to offer, and yet we can, through our navigation through the world with forgiveness and kindness and shared interests, we can return to that place in our mind more quickly.
Right. And we can't really fail to do that. I mean, we can delay it, but in the end, the end is sure. The outcome is a happy outcome to all things is sure, is another lesson in the Course at the end, at the end of the workbook. So, what brought us to this Course was the asking for a better way, was the realization that our lives, that there was something wrong, with that I never feel completely loved and loving, or there's something that's not right about what we do here and what I do here. It's really a self-recognition. And so this is the better way is that we have a different teacher, we have a different part of our mind, and we have to remember that we can access that. We have to raise to doubt the terrifying experiences that we're having when we've chosen the ego, which are all about punishment and believing that we deserve punishment. And here it is. That's why we're so scared. And of course it comes in different forms, but that's always that's where that kind of nagging dread, even when things are going relatively well, is always kind of in the back of our minds, right? As egos.
That sometimes
So
hidden, sometimes
sometimes really hard.
starkly present sort of
Right.
Damocles dangling above our head. Yeah.
Yeah, I had heard a Eastern teacher describe this pandemic as who's also, I think probably, I don't really know, but from the content of what I was hearing, sounded probably like it was a non-dualistic kind of teaching, and at least where it was leading.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he was saying that this was always there under the table. It's just on top of the table now.
Exactly.
Which is
Exactly.
very course-like in the sense that, yeah, I mean, this is what we buried in our mind, and
Mm-hmm.
now I mean, this is an amazing opportunity for us to say, okay, I really need to look at this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have plenty of opportunities to look at this, and I can use them,
Yeah. Yeah.
gently, and not push myself into more terror, but to really really use them to, we're going to have to reach out for strength, because it's not where we thought it was.
Yeah. Yeah. As you're sharing that, I was thinking, well, on the level of form, while we're reaching for the hand sanitizer, we might want to say, oh yeah, I really need to look for the mind sanitizer, which is really
Right.
the Holy Spirit, or Jesus, of course, which is the the recognition that separation is just a misunderstanding.
Yep.
And if I can bring in my projections and my grievances, see that they had no foundation, and forgive myself for making up those stories, then I'm in danger nowhere in the world.
Right, right. And really, you could also think of it as taking, which hand am I holding on to right now? And,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
we have a literal death grip on the ego's hand, but we can drop that and take a different teacher's hand. And there's that lovely lesson, those couple of lessons, I think it's 69, where Jesus talks about us going through the clouds, or lesson 70. I'm not sure which one it is, but it's right around there. And taking, he will lead us through the clouds, and but we have to take his hand.
Yeah, yeah.
That will help us find our way without terror.
Right.
Right.
Without that guidance, it seems as egos like a solid granite or iron wall.
Right.
But from the perspective of that inner kindness teacher, it's basically, it's not even
They're
as
just
thick as a
clouds.
cloud. Yeah,
Yeah, they're just clouds. There's light
you're
behind it,
going
and
through nothing here.
insubstantial. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they're symbols for the clouds of guilt. That
Mm-hmm.
belief that we are guilty sinners, and we have this coming.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
We
And as you
just.
say, we have a wonderful opportunity to look at how mindful, we can be, by using something that's ever present, or certainly more in our face than usual, and just use that as a memory jog or a mnemonic device for saying, okay, I could be more mindful about which teacher am I using at any moment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
You want to read that last paragraph? It's kind of a prayer.
Sure, sure. And there we are in truth. No storms can come into the hallowed haven of our home. In God we are secure. For what can come to threaten God himself or make afraid what will forever be part of him?
Wow.
And of course, that part that is being alluded to here is all of us,
Yes.
inclusive
Yeah.
of everyone and everything.
Yeah.
And if we leave any piece of it out, we're basically saying, God made a mistake, and this group of people, or this political party, or this gender, religion, race, faction, whatever, somehow
Virus. Yeah.
got the short shrift. Yeah.
Right. Right. I love, and I missed it the other night when I was reading this, but it's very applicable to me. The Where he says, no storms can come into the hallowed haven of our home, because I'm wildly trying to protect our home from from the invasion of these germs, and so that's a really beautiful image. And the storms is very very analogous with what we were saying about the walking through the clouds of guilt with Jesus, and being at the center of the storm, the eye of the storm, where it's really the quiet center of the mind that knows we're safe. And
Yeah,
what a
yeah.
relief, right? Don't we want to feel like that?
Absolutely. I was also kind of flashing on a few moments before we started our conversation today. We have a client that has a website that, sells biomedical equipment that uses light for therapy.
Mhm.
And one of the things that's been found is that, certain frequencies of light will resonate with different, biological structures,
Right.
including viruses. And so in many cases, if you have the right wavelength, you can literally vibrate the DNA, RNA structures of these things, into dissolution.
Interesting. Yeah.
But what a metaphor for, the light and the darkness again. Once again, it's the awareness that we're all in together that essentially vaporizes the belief in
Mhm.
separation.
Well, and even even sunlight. I mean, I don't know that I'm not talking specifically about the coronavirus, but sunlight, it does kill germs and
Yeah,
viruses. So
yeah, yeah.
so it's not so good for our skin, but but it has some very very healing properties. So
Hmm.
that's a lovely image. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
So
thank you as always, Susan. I always
thank
enjoy our
you.
conversations, and help me. They always help me remind myself to uh, you know, keep this thought
Mm.
system more in
Yeah,
focus
well, me
for
too.
today.
We all need that reminder right
Oh
now.
yeah,
So maybe we'll do these more often
yeah.
during this time. So thank you.
Thank you. And you can always find Susan's excellent writings on her website, which is foraysinforgiveness.com. And I will also post this video on acimblog.com. And look
Great.
forward to the next conversation.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.